Hello and welcome to the Game Changer series for Global Entrepreneurship Week 2016 with Business Crowd. Today I'm going to be speaking with Torie Robinson, who is a social media expert and runs her own company, which is TorieRobinson.com. So Torie, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And tell us a little bit about how you came to start working with social media. How did you discover that this was your thing?
Do you know what? Initially, it was a bit of an upsy-daisy, quite literally. I got into it when I was working in finance. It was using LinkedIn at the time was an excellent way to communicate with potential clients and just keep up relationships, both locally and internationally. And then when I decided to leave the corporate world and actually set up my own companies, initially, I was a career coach, which I still do on the side, and I'm very passionate about. But also social media came out of it too, because I do training on LinkedIn for my coaching clients. And as a way of promoting my own business, I was using Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and it was paying off. And I just find it's a natural thing for me, communication, whether that be online, verbally, body language, etc., etc. And of course, it's out there all the time. It's out there all the time, and it's an excellent, actually quite extraordinary method of communication, not just, of course, with business, but as we know, politically, anything. So the power is there, and more now, businesses are actually starting to realize that, and it's such a growing industry, which can be not just fun, but also very interesting if you look at it in the right way. There's actually quite a lot of mathematics involved, and it's very, very time consuming, but you see an outcome which is more than satisfying to the clients because they can now appreciate the importance of it when promoting their company.
Absolutely. So which companies do you see that you really rate on how they're doing social media? Because you've touched on a few of the different uses it's now being put to, from influencing politically to creating movements, as well as the marketing and the social side of marketing, because it's not enough now, is it, for brands to tell us, here's my product, here's the benefits. Consumers want a deeper relationship with the brands that they're dealing with.
Well, exactly. The way that people used to do business, you would have your stereotypical salesperson who would go out and just say to what they would consider to be a potential client that this is what we provide, are you going to go for it? But now the way into potential clients is that my clients need to consider who is it that is actually looking at social and on what platform, and then think, right, how can I actually appeal to that individual? Because at the end of the day, say you may have a partner or CEO of a firm, but not to stereotype, but often they'll be out with clients and not spending so much time on social media. In fact, the people that are actually managing that are not as superior, if you like. So whether it's their PA, whether it's people in sales or marketing or some of the directors, that person needs to be identified, and then they are targeted through social. Because although they may not make the final decision when it comes to sales, the influence and transfer of information that you provide to them is absolutely essential.
It's almost like social media managers in some respects can be the new gatekeepers for influencers.
Yeah, massively. And again, it's all about relationships. If you know the right person, whether it's going to be face-to-face or online, it's just so incredibly powerful. I'll give you an example. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had a chap get in contact with me directly from Sydney, Australia, with 40,000 followers, and just said, oh God, you know, like I can't access the market, even though he could have been perceived as a competitor potentially, but in the UK because of the time difference, how about we work together, and provided me with like a list of names. And this can happen for any sort of organization, because even if, you know, this is, if you're providing a service, it's a very small world now, and the potential is just there all the time.
Mm. So it's that thing of knowing who your audience is, knowing who your client is, also knowing who your business stakeholders are.
Yes, exactly. Knowing who makes the decisions, who is in charge of spending, who develops relationships within a company, and without doing that first, in fact, that significantly reduces the effectiveness of a social marketing campaign. So it's really, really important to go into those details and invest time in identifying these pieces of information.
So it's very much not just about going out there and being active, it's about developing a strategy.
Indeed. Strategy is utterly key. So otherwise you'll just be bobbing about in the ocean. And I think that's actually quite a lot of what makes a lot of business owners quite nervous, which is completely and utterly understandable. There needs to be what do you want to get out of it? What have you got to invest in it? Of course, what is your USP and who is your target market? And a lot of what is required as well is, which enables some of the fear at least to go away, is, you know what, there is so much rubbish out there, but if you are targeting a specific sector and a specific, you know, even if you, for instance, got 0.5% of the market, if, for instance, we're talking banking market, that would be incredible. And I think that a lot of SMEs particularly would be happy with that. But you have to be precise and consistent, because without consistency, us humans now, we're attention span of a goldfish when it comes to social media. I mean, I think the average is it's either 11 or 12 minutes now that people's tweet will be out there, for instance. So, you know.
So I guess there's two things. It's one, how do you get started? Because even it's not just small businesses, but even larger businesses and corporates can be fearful and can be late in adopting social media because of perceived risks. So one, how do people get started and select the right channels? And then it would be great if we could talk about, for those that are looking to grow a business, how do you become an influencer in your market?
Well, okay, so actually starting with influencers, I find, first of all, it's a bit like Googling your business and who you admire in your industry. So, you know, for instance, you may be typing names into the Twitter search, or say you're in charity work, for instance, and you're going to be looking at the sales department of, say, Mind or Epilepsy Action, which I do support myself. Now, what are they doing that is actually successful, if it is, presumably? And then if it is, right, okay, who are they appearing to target? Who are they getting reactions from? And can you get in contact with them to find out about their lists? Sometimes they will share, sometimes they won't. Sometimes you can identify them yourselves online. That can be a very good way to go into, a bit like with Instagram. It's another thing that works on there. And then you sort of see the potential and the number of people potentially out there that you could be appealing to. And either these companies can be perceived as competition, or you can seek to form some sort of synergy between the two and actually benefit each other. So,
yeah, so forming alliances. So really model, adapt, and look to synergize and curate.
Yeah, indeed. And I think that's actually one of the primary fears with businesses. Every single other business, especially those within a very similar or the same industry, is considered awful competition, and one shouldn't even liaise with them, because actually that's like a massive, massive mistake. Those that actually fear that and don't go down the route of communicating, because that's what social is, are losing out big style. And actually that fear often is the thing that holds people back. They're worried about being betrayed, potentially. So this is an emotional thing, basically. So possibly being betrayed by people that they form alliances with, etc., etc. And you know what? You've just got to go for it. Be sensible, you know, but go for it. Otherwise, you're completely isolating yourself, and actually that also stops growth of any organisation.
Mm. And I think that is an important thing. It's not about broadcasting. It's not about bots. It's about being human. It's about interacting. And it's about being real. So whether somebody is a sole trader or whether it is a brand, it's about having personality.
Indeed, because you know what, when we go online, instantly we can identify what is some sort of stereotypical corporate like la-di-da and has just been planned in advance. And it just, I don't know about you, but it bores me to tears and instantly makes me associate a company that does that with negative connotations.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you have somebody who's posting for the company, not just regularly and frequently, but is on the ball and, for instance, is giving company opinions on social issues, on international issues, sometimes politics, depends on the company, but that's another story, then you become more real. And at the end of the day, us humans, as much as we sometimes dislike to admit, is that we are emotional beings and we buy a person or an image, and that's what needs to be portrayed through social media.
It's about connection and it's about trust. But actually, you raised a very good point there. So controversy, you know, good for business, bad for business. Because I've got some people that swear by being controversial and others at the other end of the spectrum that would just not want to offend anybody ever. So what's your take on that, Torie?
Okay, I think it really depends upon your, first of all, the severity of the issue. So lots and lots, I think the majority of companies are not commenting on the US election because it's so utterly high profile. They're worried they're stepping people's toes, and it's not even about percentages of who they think would support them. It's just that it's too high profile. But then if you come into something like, okay, I, for instance, every day either tweet about mind or epilepsy action. I just do, because there is nothing that I perceive to be negative about these things. My association with these businesses, which is effectively what they are, these businesses, even though they're charities, is positive. So it's all about confidence, really. But as long as businesses consider long-term the effects of things, and again, even so, we say that everyone is human. Yesterday, for instance, oh God, I was so tempted to tweet. I'm really human about what was going on. But I didn't, because it could just set off a storm, and that's not for me. But I know exactly what you mean. I have business associates that love it, but they're able to ignore the negative comments that they get, sometimes abusive. I have one client, or sorry, associate, who actually has stalkers as a result. Do you know what? That's not for me. So it depends upon what you're willing to risk, effectively.
Yeah. And what the issues are that you're dealing with in the business, and is it something that's congruent?
Yes, exactly. Is it congruent? Is it relevant? Is it going to raise your profile in a positive way? And there's risk associated with every single post that you do, every single article, post. And a lot of businesses will say bad news is still good news because it raises their profile. It depends to perceive it, and I suppose it depends upon your morality as well. I personally can't imagine the NHS saying something politically incorrect, intentionally at least, but then come to politics, oh God, it happens all the time. So yeah, depends on the industry.
Yeah. So what for you, I mean, obviously there's a lot of conversation at the moment, and I know that Twitter is a big platform for you with the work that you do. What are the feelings? Because there's a lot of talk at the moment, again, about changes in social media land, the up-and-comings and the ones that may be starting to fall out of favour. What platforms are you thinking are the ones that people should be focusing on now?
I personally, Twitter is absolutely huge. Again, if you just take the US election, there were 70 million tweets regarding the latest one, but back in 2012 there were 35. So the expansion of that is absolutely huge. Another one is LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it was purchased by Microsoft for $26 billion is rather immense. So there's a lot of investment in it, and despite it being relatively slow, I think compared to other networks, the value of LinkedIn is intense, and actually, if you're going after the professional market and wish to access those who really do make decisions, LinkedIn is often a very good way to have access to communicating with those individuals.
Absolutely.
So those are my two favourites.
I really like LinkedIn, both pre the Microsoft acquisition. I was an early adopter with LinkedIn. I think it's an absolutely fantastic platform. The one thing I wish they'd bring back was the events thing that they had several years ago, where if you were going somewhere, you could make your arrangements to be meeting everybody through the LinkedIn platform, which was fabulous. But I think combined with the business analytics that Microsoft are investing in, it is going to explode.
Yeah, and even already, I mean, I know we're hot on it in London, but if people don't have a LinkedIn profile, and a quality one at that, honestly, the suspicion, rightly or wrongly, is there. And I'm thinking, well, what are you trying to hide? What exactly is going on with your business, but you as an individual? And I think, sorry, go on.
I was going to say it's one of those things as well, isn't it? When different social media platforms come out, if you think it is one for you, build your footprint early.
Exactly that. And then honestly, you get so much admiration from people just a little bit further down the line, and you can take control, partial control of that platform, because you know exactly how it works. You're helping them build the blocks of the platform. So yeah, it looks, there are some people who are actually rather senior that I've worked with, and they just have, well, they don't even have a photo. They have their job description from 10 years ago. Well, not 10 years ago, but a couple of years ago. It's not accurate, and maybe a couple of connections, and they don't even know the people. And it's just awful. It makes someone appear very outdated, uneducated, not with the times. And considering that, you know, technology is changing at astounding rate literally every day, to not be on that platform and to not be active on that platform, that's another important thing, is certainly a negative for any business person.
I have to admit now, it's the first thing, I mean, you know, it's where I invite people to connect with me. It's the first place where I go and check somebody out.
Oh, completely. It's like, well, some people call it a bit of a professional stalker situation. It's not. It's just where we check people. It's a bit like thinking back. Yeah.
Due diligence.
Exactly. Due diligence. And quite literally, there have been people I've been suspicious of due to either their lack of profile or poor profile. And where I've felt comfortable, I've told them. And it's bizarre how some people are not even quite aware of that yet. It's a bit weird. But business-wise, it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a shift in the corporate that I worked for, you know, to begin with, when I first started using it, people were very suspicious of it. Didn't want to be on there, felt it was gateway, particularly because it was a very security conscious industry, being technology. Whereas now, since they've embraced it, I believe, you know, it is proving to be something that is very, very useful for them, and particularly for that generation of people that are coming up through the ranks that need to develop mentoring relationships or industry relationships. You know, I think LinkedIn can be very, very powerful.
Indeed, and it actually has several different roles. It can be used for businesses that want to potentially find sales through it, either directly or build relationships that lead to future sales. But of course, it's also there for employees who they use it like almost a recruitment platform. And it is used as that as well, because it is your online CV where you actually get the opportunity to show more about who you are as a person, rather than that stereotypical black and white boring CV that we all have to have in this country. And And also, you can put videos and stuff on it now, or you have been able to for a good while. A lot of people aren't aware of it. But again, that is a huge professional marketing tool. So whether you are an employee or a business person.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that's an interesting point you come to, the rise of video, Torie.
Sorry, I missed that.
I said it's an interesting point you come to, the rise of video on the social media channels.
Yeah, so, I mean, back to Twitter, for instance, if you don't have at least an image with with a tweet, then you're 70% less likely to be viewed, and what you've written will be pretty much pointless. But again, if you have video, in addition to, instead of a photo, that is what attracts people. Because there's so much information out there, we need to have something that's actually considered interesting, or even if it's just funny, playing on people's humour.
Yeah,
is another huge thing. Colour, humour. What is it? They say that an image. It was actually, there was another study done recently saying that an image holds something like 100,000 words. That wasn't the exact amount, but an absolutely huge amount, and it's so true. But again, using an image or video, particularly of an individual, is what a lot of people fear. And I completely get it. I really, really do. But sometimes I say, do you know what? When I'm talking to myself, I'm not so important, but people aren't going to spend all that much time looking at me just to possibly, say something derogatory. It's not that important. And as long as you are communicating quality information that benefits the person who's watching it, then that is really what is important. People want valuable information, and if you can provide that, then you're on a good roll.
Yeah, I think if you can provide it, it's great. And we've also, one of the interviews is with somebody I work with that does coaching for people to use video in their business. And it's about education and providing information in a way where it's easily digestible, not overly complicated. And I think that's one of the things, because of the fast-flowing nature of social media, actually for your business, it can really help you to also, as you're going along, refine your messages and become really clear.
Indeed. Yeah, and so if, for instance, one is a beginner on social media, you can start just by practicing things, trying one thing out, and then you monitor, okay, what's been the response rate on that, or what's been the number of views, and on that certain time of day, what has worked. And you can be relatively gentle with yourself, but it's just, the biggest thing that holds people back is fear about it. The fear of the unknown, and exposure, worrying about any sensitive information getting out there. But it's, I just say step at a time. One of my clients who a bit older than myself and is not even good on Word. And so we had to start just on one platform and get him comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. And that one was LinkedIn. So refining the profile, then this is our marketing plan for LinkedIn. These are the articles which are going to be written, etc., etc. And then we can move on to Twitter more, and then we can move on to Instagram, which is actually, despite it being like the fastest growing platform at the moment, many people just think it's something for your holiday photos, and it's really not.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today, Torie. It's been fascinating, and I hope that this inspires more people to have the confidence to be stepping up and using social media more frequently in their business and to grow it in their business. Because if you'd have said 10 years ago that we would have had these tools for marketing at our disposal, I think most people who are entrepreneurs and small businesses would be amazed. So,
indeed.
Yeah, where can people find out more about what you do and get in touch with you?
Okay, well, please do just send me a quick email at torie@torierobinson.com, or my website, which will very soon be redone, will be torierobinson.com, funnily enough, or you can find me on LinkedIn, just Torie Robinson, and any other social media platforms, which I believe the information will be provided.
Yes, the link
right?
published, yes. So
indeed, but please add me and I will respond, and we can develop those relationships. And yeah, it's all about fun and attentions, and that's what business should be as well. It should be enjoyable.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you.